I feel my life and routines have changed. I'm not sure when they did, but they're very different now from how they were this time last year. Life stays the same for ages and then suddenly everything changes in the blink of an eye. And now I look back at who I was last year and 10 years before that, and I'm like, who was that person? They say that time speeds up as you get older, and I didn't really feel that until recently, when my memories of adult life span decades rather than years, and when recent times can be years ago instead of just months, and when that clean, compartmentalised view of your life stages breaks down and starts to become a messy patchwork of in-betweens. It was earlier today that I realised the longest day in the year is fast approaching. This was something I used to closely track, staring out of the window almost every day to appreciate how the sun sets later and gets up earlier. Yet this year, I could have sworn that spring had only just started. Or when I remember something that felt like last month, that was actually a year ago. Or when I watch a movie like Lord of the Rings and I'm reminded of moments that I recall thinking had been permanently burned into my memory forever. Or when I realised that time I replayed Metal Gear Solid to refresh my memory of it was 8 years ago. I was the same person for so long, but it's like I've jumped a few years and now view back at my younger self as a very different person. I don't like it, and I don't know what I've replaced all those old fond memories with instead. And with that, the content I create and how I do it has changed as well. In fact, it's moved back more to how I used to make it in the first place. Variety is important. It doesn't matter the routine you have. Eventually, you're going to get bored of it and complacent. So I have to regularly trick myself with a new routine. Most of the time I notice this is a little bit less productive than what I had before, but sometimes it moves in the right direction. So I'll be covering some of my recent changes to my content creation in this video. I shouldn't be making this video. I should be prioritising my main and most popular channels. It's not like I have much time at the moment. But again, I'm trying to trick myself into squeezing out this extra video before working on the others, which I know I have to get done before I'm off again next week. They have to be done, there's no question about it. I'll just have to worry about how I'll do that at 3 AM on Monday morning. It's like doing homework last minute. The practice is frowned upon, but it's definitely the best way to do it. That armor graphics video I made recently was extra. That video shouldn't have existed, but I was working on a kliksphilip video where there was a bit of back and forth where I had to wait for people to respond before I could carry on with it, so rather than procrastinating in the meantime, I instead started on the armor graphics video, fearing that if I didn't cover it first then somebody from Digital Foundry would, and then I'd forever be resentful if it became the most watched video on YouTube ever or whatever. kliksphilip has had very few popular videos in the last few years. Those that are tend to be on current topics. In fact, they all are. So it's been all of the spontaneous, rushed videos like the Windows 11 one, the Unreal 5 one, the Place one, the Armor Graphics one, or that AI generated image one I did yesterday that have been the most stressful for me to make because I saw my opportunity to cover them closing quickly, especially when Markiplier got his AI video out. When I saw that, I knew I had to get mine out ASAP. And now I notice that every video YouTube recommends me is Markiplier, just because I clicked on one of his videos for 30 seconds. I wonder if people get aggressively recommended kliksphilip content after viewing a kliksphilip video. Maybe 5 years ago, I discovered a way of boosting my productivity. I discovered that, instead of creating videos in bite-sized chunks of content and script until it eventually reached the length of a full video, I could instead type up the entire script first, and then get all the footage for that later. This effectively halved how long it took to make videos. It didn't even matter if I hadn't researched what the video was about. I'd make up a nonsense script full of predictions and guesses about what I'd find. Then, when I was finding the content for that, I'd revise the script, and then correct it all in a second, sweeping pass. This is a brutally efficient way of creating content. The downside? It's boring as hell. Rather than working on self-contained, bite-sized 30-second chunks, I'd be faced with the gargantuan challenge of having to find 10 minutes of content in one full day-long sitting, which was a drag, if brutally efficient. I kept this strategy going for years, but recently have lacked the motivation to do it, and have instead tried returning to the varied, piecemeal approach that I used to take. And this has brought about two benefits. Firstly, it turns out that treating videos as lots of separate, shorter sketches makes those videos better. And secondly, and more surprisingly, this slower method of making videos has proven to be faster. That doesn't make sense, but it turns out that I'm much more motivated and engaged with this sort of content creation, and that with the boring, efficient way of doing things, I slowly got bogged down with procrastination and bad habits, as I must have done everything in my power to put off doing work because it was so boring. So that's one way in which I've changed this year. I think kliksphilip's content this year has been among the best he's ever done, thanks to this. Even small things like telling myself to film a scene outside, or to shoehorn Kinect into a video, or to take the time to do a silly little sketch halfway through a video, has had profound benefits on the quality of my content, and indeed, how fondly I look back at the content creation process. It's been great for my well-being, even if all these extra challenges and unknowns daunt me at the time. Although, I do still type the whole script up first for some of my content. I do it for this channel since these videos tend to be lower effort and it takes less time to get reasonable video footage to accompany the script with anyway. I have myself a tomato timer set to the same length as my audio recording is, then I try to get it all edited together in real time. Whoever thinks YouTubing is easy hasn't seen the utterly ridiculous challenge of trying to edit audio in real time, all the while to the sound of an angry, ticking tomato. And the other sort of video where I still type up the entire script first before researching it is, surprisingly, the ones where I research things. It sounds absolutely wrong, doesn't it? To talk about what I expect to find before I found it. But this is a great way to get me thinking and invested in what I expect to discover, and then when I'm proven wrong in the video capture stage, I am genuinely excited about my discoveries, which I think is reflected in my revised scripts, and in all the branch investigations I then carry out to get the real answers. A massive bullshit script is a great way to get me to dive headfirst into a topic that I think would otherwise scare me off from ever attempting. I've had another bad habit that I was kind of unaware of at the time, but looking back it was obvious. I used to treat video render time as free time. Once it started, I'd go off and eat food or watch Better Call Saul or whatever I felt like doing. And it felt like I was multitasking, because a video was still rendering in the background. But again, bad habits crept in. I started rendering videos before I knew they were done, since I knew then I could render them again later and get another chance to watch Saul Goodman chuck bottles off a roof or whatever he was up to. So it pained me to do this, but I forced myself to review the video before it was rendered, using the laggy, buggy preview screen of my editing software. Turns out that is enough to spot most of the problems. I still render a low quality copy to YouTube just to preview the finished thing, but I've significantly cut down on the amount of render time I do, instead of thinking a video is done only to have to then do another full quality 4K render because I missed lots of obvious things. And with this change in strategy, I have cut down on my procrastination time. And the final thing I've changed is how I finalize a video. I don't mind making thumbnails. You might see some of them as being sillier or more clickbaity than they used to be. I don't think my thumbnails have any bearing on the video's popularity, no matter what I do, honestly. I just like to make them look silly to keep myself entertained. And it's fun to occasionally receive death threats from somebody who's triggered by a red arrow on what's otherwise the least clickbaity video in the world. I like to split my videos up into chapters, and I try to hand type subtitles for all of them. Most YouTubers don't bother with this, because it does take a very long time to do, and it's a bit of a thankless task, especially with YouTube's auto-translate feature being good enough these days. Let me know which you use when viewing my content. My videos are script-based, which makes it a lot easier to upload a script for them. But also not really, because I've become a lot more spontaneous. I improvise and deviate from the script, so if I want to be accurate with it, I still need to go through each video word by word. I used to do this in a combined pass. I'd upload a draft video to YouTube and would check it through for mistakes in the video and the subtitles at the same time. But I noticed I always prioritised the subtitle mistakes and was letting video mistakes through. Turns out it's hard to multitask when reviewing a video. You can do it, but it won't be to the best of your ability. So now I do this separately. I go through the video to check for visual mistakes, and then I load my script up and play the video again next to it, addressing each and every error in the script, which seems to be a full-time job unto itself. By the time a video of mine is released, I am sick of it, and I can't watch it with enjoyment until several months later. The problem is, because I upload in 4K, and because I add chapters to my videos, and because I bother to hand type subtitles, I now get people complaining when I don't bother with these things, even though I'm like the only YouTuber to bother doing it, and the only one to be held to this high standard. And even when I do these things, I get people angry when I make a typo or a slight grammatical change somewhere. I've had people insult my English ability for using English spellings, and it's like, look, you know by criticising me for doing these things that it's going to make me not want to try doing them in the future. But I'm still doing it. Recently I was away for over a week, so all those finishing touches had to wait until I returned. But I still go around to doing them, because for some reason I think it's a good investment, if only to keep up the same high standards that I've been maintaining for years already, and to prevent me from slipping into yet another lazy habit. It's been a tough few months for me, but I like to think I've used it to improve. I know I've mentioned the idea of a gold star day before, since I see you referencing it from time to time in the comments section. What that is a day where I go to bed knowing that I've gone above and beyond what was required of me that day. Ones where I haven't just ground out the usual amount of content, but have somehow produced 2.5 videos and hung the washing out to dry and did the washing up while waiting for video clips to stabilise upstairs. When I look at recent weeks and months, sometimes I go 3 or 4 days in a row where they're all golden star days. I don't know why I don't do it more often. The days are rewarding, I look back fondly at them, yet getting started with such a productive day feels like a challenge. But like I said, I can't complain because I've done a lot of them recently. My productivity has been high, the content I think has been varied and engaging, and now with this video done, I can start on my actual work for the day.